Welcome back to another episode of The Decision Hour. I'm your host, Adam Bird. Today, I'm excited. Why am I excited? Because I got a great guest lined up for you today. I met this amazing woman a couple months ago at an event, and it was just unbelievable. It touched my heart, and I'm just excited and blessed that she's here today. So, my guest today, she's an award-winning television journalist, producer, multimedia host. She's a holistic mental health expert. She's havening. Did I say that right? Havening. I knew I was going to mess that up. Havening trainer and practitioner, international speaker, and she's also a podcast host. Please welcome Hilary Russo. Hilary, how are you today?
I am great. What is new and good with you?
I am above ground, so it's a great day. I'm drawing breath. I woke up this morning, so I'm having a great day.
Any day that we can wake up and the two gifts that we're given we get to see out of is a good day, right? It's a good day for a good day.
Right? I love it. First off, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. I want to dive right into it. Tell my listeners, just a little bit about yourself, who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Hilary Russo, holistically speaking. And I am someone that is on this planet to make a difference, like most of us might say, right? But how do I do that? I imagine it's just, I want to give people tools to be kind to their mind. I want to have good conversations. And I think part of that goes back to, like you mentioned, my years of experience in broadcasting, but moving into the work that I do in holistic mental health allows me to kind of bring together both my superpowers of connection with other people and using my voice to share that message that we have the ability to change our thoughts, moods, behaviors, and habits.
I absolutely love that. So I want to start with, if I may, very briefly, the journalistic side of you, award-winning television journal. Like, how did that start, and how long did that last?
Oh, well, that's still going.
Okay,
that's still part of my journey.
Yeah.
I've been a journalist since I walked out of college. In fact, I was even a journalist when I was in college, when I was interning. I think I was one of the first paid interns at the TV radio station I worked at, because they realized that was a gift, and I don't take that lightly.
Right.
So my work in journalism, broadcast journalism specifically, really has been a journey that I've been on for over 30 years. And it's changed a lot. I went into traditional broadcast journalism, worked at affiliate television stations, worked at cable stations, worked in the business before there was even internet, or early stages of internet.
Right.
And, all of that paved the way to what kind of journalist do I want to be? And it's that compassionate journalist, which later when I was teaching at St. John's University, journalism and on-camera presentation, that's the kind of students I wanted to put out there in the world to be journalists, compassionate, because we've lost track of that a little bit. And I think being someone that loves to hear somebody else's story and really being an active listener, that kind of paved the way for me to move into the kind of journalist, like I said, I want to be, which was focusing on good stories, health, wellness. And I covered a lot of different beats over my years. Some I did not want to cover, but you do it as a journalist. You get handed a story and you do it. And falling into the world of health and wellness really opened my eyes. And we can certainly go into that deeper of how that happened. But I started getting really interested in living a more holistic life, like whole body approach. And then I just kind of fell into the work that I do in integrative nutrition, holistic health, and also the mental health field.
So getting into the holistic side of things, was that on purpose, or did you just happen to fall into that? How did you start going into that?
So I love that you use those words, falling into, because I say that all the time, that life is a falling into, right? Because what's the saying? If you want to make a God laugh, tell him your plans, right? And it was really never my intention. I look back and I didn't go to school to be a therapist or somebody who works in mental health. I always had a a love for the brain and psychology. In fact, that was my master's, was in IO psychology, and which is industrial organizational psychology. And it was just because I was so fascinated with behavior and I loved watching those types of television shows. I just really had this thing where I wanted to know more about how the brain and body were connected
Yeah.
before I even knew it was the thing that we're talking about now. So the falling into that happened when my dad was sick my whole life. He was a diabetic. I lost my father when I was 29, and it was a wake up call for me at a pretty early age that I wanted to take care of my body in a way that I didn't see my dad taking care of his own body,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so that desire to be healthy, maybe at times, Adam, it was a little obsessive because I was scared to be sick,
Right.
right? The fear comes over.
Yeah.
So I always lived with that as a kid. And then later in life, as I got older, I actually wound up doing a television show because I was doing a lot of acting and on camera hosting, even when I was not a traditional journalist anymore. I was getting hired to do a lot of on camera work. And one of the jobs I fell into was being an on camera educator or an online educator for one of the, if not the biggest nutrition schools in the world, holistic nutrition schools in the world, IAN. And from that, I was like, gosh, I really love talking about this. I love talking about health and wellness. And if I can choose the kind of stories I tell, that's the kind of that's what I want to put out there in the world. And then that kind of fell into Hilary getting cast on a live streaming fitness show and finding out what a health coach was and realizing I could do this. I can hold space for people. And I became a certified integrative nutrition health coach at the same school I was actually educating people in. So it was like I was watching myself in the videos.
Wow.
And then I kind of fell into the work even more so, where doors opened and havening came into my life, which is really my heart's work.
And
It's really where I love being.
I think that's a great transition.
Yeah.
You say havening.
Hmm.
What is that?
Good question. Good question, Bob. They were kidding around that before. Back to you in the studio. So havening is a neuroscience-based approach. It uses touch. We've tried this together. I love that we did this together. And it uses touch and positive thought and pleasant distractions to rewire the brain rapidly.
Okay.
It can build resilience. It can help you with your everyday upsets. It can even de-encode trauma if you're working with a certified practitioner like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the havening story of how I fell into that was really quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
But the whole idea and the pairing where people ask me, how is broadcasting the same of what you're doing as a mental health practitioner? And I say, well, it's actually very similar. The one difference is this: when I work with people now, I'm asking them questions or helping them be a detective in their own mind to broadcast in. When I was asking questions as a journalist, or when I do still, I'm asking questions and then we broadcast out.
Yeah.
It's really the only difference. You're going within, right? So to go back to what havening is, it's what we call CPR for the amygdala, because your amygdala is designed to do one thing in your life. Yours and mine and everybody else's. It's designed to keep you alive and safe, keep you out of danger. It's one mission. So havening, by doing the touch and the positive thought or pleasant distraction, and that could be anything. That could be counting to 20. It could be thinking of a great vacation you just took and taking yourself back there if you have a really good active imagination. And if you don't, it could be looking out the window and just watching the cars go by or the birds in the trees. That's a distraction. You're taking yourself out of the upset of whatever you're in the moment and taking your amygdala there, because it doesn't know time or space. So where you guide it is where it goes. And that's what we talk about, building those new neural pathways. So when that happens, when you're doing the touch, which is like washing your hands, I see you doing it right now.
I've been doing it
or
ever since we met.
You told me you do it a lot.
Yeah,
I love that.
I do.
After we did it the first time. It could also be gently touching your shoulders to your elbows on the downward stroke, or even on your face. There's no choreography. You just have to continuously do it. You release oxytocin, which is the love hormone.
Okay.
You release serotonin and dopamine and GABA. And these are those happy chemicals,
Right.
right? And then you also produce more delta waves in your brain. And delta waves are your sleep state brain waves, the slowest moving brain waves you have.
Mhm.
So if you're producing more of those and less of, gamma and gamma and alpha waves, which are really fast waves, then it's going to calm you down and you're able to find the calm in the chaos. You're able to step back and make a decision. You're able to deal with things in a different way and build a better relationship with your amygdala that you're safe. You're not in danger. It's not happening right now. If it even happened at all. How's that?
I I like that because I think a lot of times I think people should use this as opposed to a knee jerk reaction to certain situations that they can't control anyway.
Yeah,
And I find
we see
myself
that a
as I'm
lot.
sitting, I'm not
It,
doing this intentionally because you're on here with me. This is just something that has gotten into a normal routine for me since we've met. And those of you that don't know, I'm sitting here, I'm rubbing my hands, together, right now, and I started doing more of this since I met Hilary at the event that we met at, and
Mhm.
I found myself doing this like on the plane. I don't like flying. I started ever since COVID. I started driving everywhere. Obviously, most know that I was recently on a vacation. Wasn't going to drive there. Flew there, and when I'm in the plane, it's just before takeoff or landing. I sit there and I do this just to calm my nerves,
Mhm.
and it's
That's right.
I love, absolutely love. Um,
It,
I want to say this real quick for those that are listening and they want to learn more. Is this something that you work with clients right now, or teach? If somebody's listening right now, can they reach out to you? And if so,
yeah.
what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes and yes. I am also a certified trainer. There's only 50 of us in the world that are trained in the approach of havening techniques. So I train doctors, nurses, therapists, teachers, and just anyone that wants to put this into their personal life and then possibly go on to get certified as a practitioner and use it in their professional life, and hoping to open it up to those in even the government and military veteran sector, because I feel like there's a need for this, in corporate sector. If there are more tools that we have, the better,
Yeah.
right? And so people can reach out to me either for the trainings, which is just going to my website, and there's an area that on a drop down for trainings. And then there's also people can work with me one on one. I also do corporate wellness events, and that's just going to my website and finding that I also do a free havening happy hour every month for those who are like, what is this thing she keeps talking about? Right. So that's something I've been doing. Believe it or not, Adam, this is amazing. The day we're recording right now, 5 years ago today was the first Havening happy hour I ever had. It's when the world shut down during COVID and we had no idea what was going on. And people were really stressed and there was a lot of uncertainty. And I said, hold on a second. I've got tools that I can share. I'm going to open this up to a big Zoomapalooza and invite anyone to come. And I created my first Havening happy hour on that date. And since then, I've been doing it every month for the past 5 years as a free resource for people to come and they do a little self havening. I guide them through the experience in this group. And you don't even have to share. That's the beauty of havening techniques, is that you don't have to share your content or even say anything,
Yeah.
because it's your journey going inside. Like when we did it together,
Right.
you just sat there
Yeah.
and I just guided you. You were on your own journey with your amygdala. And then we checked in after that and you were, what was your response to it afterwards?
Yeah. It was. I mean, I remember sitting there with you quietly, and it was just like, okay, do this. And at first, I was like, okay, I'm rubbing my hands together, and then you just kept talking, but your voice was very calming.
Thanks.
It was, well, and I think that's important, and I
Yeah.
point that out because I think if you're working with somebody and we're like, all right, here's what we're gonna do, and you don't want, you're like,
Mm.
you're trying to bring the person to like a calmness state, and I felt comfortable, and that's not something I have a hard time trusting people, and the trust was built there, I think, pretty quickly with you and I. And as I sat there and was rubbing my hands, it was just like all of a sudden, it was just, I felt almost like an out of body experience where I was standing there looking at the two of us on this couch, and I'm sitting there just kind of rubbing my hands together. And I'm just like, okay, this is cool. This. And I remember asking you a question. It was like, what's the trick to
Mm-hmm.
this? And I think it was anybody can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to recognize if you're getting, I'll use a lot of time in the veteran community, if you feel like a trigger coming on, recognizing that trigger is coming on, how easy is it to just take it like, okay, I'm antsy. I don't know why. I'm starting to get angry. I don't know why. I'm yelling, I'm just like, wait a minute, just rub my hands together. And then when you do that, even just now sitting here, it's just like, whew, okay, you can take it. You don't have
Right.
it. You're safe. You're in a safe
And
spot.
you've been soothing when you say you rub your hands together, that gentle rub, just like it could be anything. It could be kind of like the pendulum of going back and forth. It could just be like you're washing your hands, whatever's comfortable to you, to whomever.
Yeah.
It's your own journey. The thing that makes it the havening technique is that you're doing the hands to hands or the shoulders to elbows or the face, and you're bringing your mind somewhere else. So that's what really makes it the dance of what havening techniques is. It's not just the touch, it's the touch plus pulling yourself out of the narrative of whatever you're feeling and emotion you have
Yeah.
and taking yourself elsewhere. So that's a big difference than a lot of traditional therapy and other approaches, because a lot of times they want you to stay in it.
Yeah.
Let's work through it. Let's go into it. And while there could be a place for that, yes, there doesn't have to be a
Well,
place for it.
and
You don't have to stay in that emotion,
and
you know?
a lot of the times when and this, I'm not saying anything bad about other practices or anything like that, but
Mhm.
here's the thing. It doesn't work for everybody. Those types of
That's right.
practices are very uncomfortable for a lot of people that I know, me personally. Like, I don't like, oh, let's stay in this state and work through it. Screw that. Let's get me out of this state. I do not want to be here. This is very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
This was very comfortable, and it seems, since I've been doing this and recognizing certain states, I've seen a increase in better life in doing that. If that makes sense, that's not what I'm trying to say. It sounded better in my mind, but it's a simple practice that you can do. But I have to go back to something here, Hilary. This havening. You said that only 50 people are practitioners of this, you being one. My question is how did you find this, and how long has this been around?
I love telling that story. And just to make a slight correction, there's only 50 at this point. There's 50 trainers.
Trainers, excuse me,
So a
trainer.
little
Okay.
around 50, 50 or 60, around that number,
Mm-hmm.
because we are training more people in the world globally. And not everyone that's been certified as a trainer is still actively training. We have a lot of people that have trained for years and they're kind of passing the torch
Yeah.
or not doing as many. So I'm one of the next generation of trainers that was given that gift of being asked to do that by the co-developing doctors of Havening, Dr. Ron and Dr. Steve Rudin. And there are about 1,000 practitioners globally.
Okay.
So yeah, which is still not a lot when you think about
No.
modalities out there. That's
Yeah.
not a lot. We're a very tight community. We're from all over the world. We probably have more across the pond than here in the US, but that's growing. And a lot of that has to do with getting more comfortable complementary alternative medicines here in the States, right?
Right.
But that's a big one. Now, how Havening came into my lap is a fun story.
Yes.
That actually happened when I was already a holistic health coach. I was an integrative nutrition health coach, and I was still living in New York City, and I had gone to a birthday party at some Irish pub or something down in New York City. It was a 50th birthday party for a friend. And at that party, I met a woman who is the CEO of the Havening organization. And at the time, I believe she was COO, but now she's CEO and a good friend, Feliciano. And I didn't know her. And you know what happens when you first meet somebody? Oh, what do you do? Oh, what do you do? Right? That general introduction. So I tell her, I'm like, well, I'm a health journalist. I'm also moving into the space of holistic health, and told her my little spiel. And then I said, what do you do? And she said, can I show you? And I said, oh, okay, here we are in a New York City bar. What you got? And she said, may I touch you? And I'm like, where is this going? Right? I'm like, where's this party going? I thought I was just at a birthday party. And I said, of course. So she, in her sweet, soft voice, she's like, well, this is the havening touch. It's like you're washing your hands or giving yourself a hug or touching your face. I want you to think of something on a scale of 0 to 10 that might be coming up for you that maybe doesn't feel so great. Maybe you want to move that out of your space, or however she said it. And, maybe I came up with like feeling stressed or anxious, and my number might have been about a 5. And she did the havening touch on me, because that's the difference. You can actually self-apply this, which is great for self-regulation, which is what I taught you how to do.
Right.
Or you can have a certified practitioner actually do the touch on you. Same motions on your shoulders to arms, hands, face, with consent, which is what she asked. And we went through the protocol, and I don't even know how long I was standing at that bar, because I was getting ready to leave, by the way. And she pulled me back in. And she havened me for a couple minutes on that stress, that thing that was really coming up for me. And she said, how do you feel? What's your number? And I was like, well, now I'm like at a 0. And my word is, where do I sign up? Like, that's basically what I said. I go, my word is, I need more of that. That's what
Yeah.
I said. I go, is that a word? And she's like, okay, that's a good thing. And I think within like a month, I was signed up to take the 2-day workshop that teaches you the fundamentals, the neuroscience. You get to meet the doctors, because at that time it was in person in New York. And I knew I wanted to bring it into my practice after that, because I actually volunteered on stage at the 2-day workshop, which now I now trained, because I'm a trainer. And I was havened on stage by Dr. Ron, who is the co-developer of Havening, on the grief and loss of my father, which for 17 years, I really was having a hard time processing. And I left that stage with such weight lifted off my shoulders. I don't even know how long I was on that stage. So now I've been Haven twice. And one was on just an everyday upset. And then Dr. Ron did it on me, and it was on a trauma of the loss of my dad. And it's never impacted me the same way again, because it's somehow it disconnects the trauma. Your amygdala is not reacting to it. We know that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It doesn't take it away, right,
Right.
Adam?
It's still
But it
there.
allows you to, right. I still have a loss. I
Right.
still miss my dad,
Right.
but I'm not living in the grief and the loss like I was. And I've been able to see and create a new story and narrative based off of a story that was already written. And that's where I knew. I'm like, this is it. Bring it on, bring this into my practice. And it's been that ever since.
How many of you that are listening right now have gone through something? And I know a lot of you have. I get emails from you guys and gals, for that matter, all walks of life. And you're hearing what Hilary's talking about and what I've experienced with her in the short amount of time that I got to spend with her, and how this practice is changing lives. Now you take it from the military. I'm going to talk from my military peeps, my brothers and sisters. A lot of us struggling, years and years and years, sometimes a lifetime. And there's different techniques, and everybody knows that I'm not a big fan of the VA, because a lot of the times is, here, take these pills, and we know that's not the answer either. Maybe for some, but for most of us, that's not what we want. And we try to find alternative. For the longest time, it was an alternative medicine. What are some alternatives? And that's another rabbit hole for another day. But then you hear more of like the holistic healings, stuff like this that we can do. And it's not hard. And I think a lot of the times we are scared because we don't know what to expect. And a lot of the times, most of us is like, I'm not doing that. It sounds dumb, or it's not going to do anything for me. Great. If that's the attitude you want to have, then you can continue down that path.
Mm.
But the instructor side of me says, hey, the only way you're going to change anything is lace up your boots and start moving forward. And if you want to change in your life, you have to make the decision, no pun intended, to change. And here
And
is a technique that will allow you to do that. What is it going to hurt to at least try?
yeah. And the first step to any change is an awareness that a change needs to happen, going back to what you said originally. If you're aware of standing in the tension of something that doesn't feel right in your body, like it's not right. There's a higher part of yourself, that subconscious mind runs beautifully and knows exactly what to do. It's the other stuff that gets in the way. So if you feel like something is coming up for you and you're just like, it doesn't feel right, you deserve to feel right.
Yeah.
But the first step is the awareness. And once you have an awareness, then you move into that state of allowing. And allowing is giving yourself permission
Mm.
to try something different. It's really permission, right? Giving yourself permission to try something different, try something new, to choose, because choice is powerful too,
Yeah.
right? And permission is giving yourself choice. And then from that, you move into what aligns with you. And I call it the triple A's. You have the awareness, allowing, alignment. I do a lot of car and journey analogies for some reason. It's not like I was Marissa Tomei spending time in my cousin Vinny and know everything about cars, because I don't. There's people for that. But I feel like we are a vehicle, right? We are a
Right.
vehicle. And how are you taking care of the wheel, which is the mind?
Yeah.
What's steering this? That's really steering everything. So you have this choice to choose a couple paths, and you might not know the outcome. And sometimes not knowing the outcome feels unsafe, and that's uncertainty. But, you know, just if you think about it like you're on this highway of life, you just haven't reached the exit yet. The exit could be that choice that you haven't made yet. The exit could be feeling better, right? And it's a powerful tool. And I do want to mention, Adam, that for folks that don't know, the reason why I have such a passion for wanting to help those, and again, I'll say this a million times over to you, to those listening, thank you for those who serve or have served. I spent over a decade as a military spouse. And I don't recall there being tools to help either one of us or those who I worked with in family support or being part of the spouses club. There were a lot of dysregulated people. And if I had these tools then, I wonder what would be different in my life, or those that I care about. And I still have pretty tight contacts with people that I serve because, as they say, whatever branch you're in, for me, it was the Air Force. The home is where the Air Force sends you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm pretty sure every
Yeah.
every one of the branches probably have that saying,
Yeah.
but it's true. You make family with people for life.
Right.
And I look back and I see who's doing what and how are they helping themselves and how are they growing and developing and what are they doing for their own personal wellness. And it's beautiful to see when people make choices that are helping them heal, because we're constantly on a healing journey,
I
constantly.
I love that you brought up the entire military families, because when you speak of military and you speak about veterans, it focuses on the service member or the veteran themselves. And oftentimes, and this is kind of frustrating and it strikes a nerve with me a little bit, but when you speak military, you should be thinking about the spouses and the children.
Mm-hmm.
The kids didn't have a choice. They're in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this practice, these techniques, as I'm sitting rubbing my hands again, it's. I wish I could have taught this to my son at a younger
Mm-hmm.
age. You know what I mean? I just want to throw that out there because I think
Yeah.
that's so important when you're talking about that. And then our network, our parent network, Heroes Media Group, Heroes, community heroes. You get law enforcement and the firefighters, the first responders, the people that work in the hospitals, teachers. This works for everybody, guys. This is obviously we talk a lot about military families and the family side or the military side of things, but this is it's for anybody. And again, if you're listening to this, it means you're already online. Open up another browser. Go to Hilary's website, Hilary Russo. That's HILARYRUSSO.com. Just open up another browser. She's got all of her social media links. Strongly encourage you to follow her on social media. Great content on her social. Fun to watch there as well.
I appreciate that. I really do. And I will say that it is all those who are of service. And, I do a lot of speaking engagements and conferences in front of doctors and nurses and anyone in the health profession, but also first responders and just the media. They're being in the room with folks and being able to give them this tool at the end of what I share, as that takeaway is the ultimate takeaway. I mean, you saw it, and it's something that no person should feel that when they're in work of service, right? Especially, we're just talking about being in service with all these careers that you mentioned. There's a certain kind of person that it takes to do that kind of work, whether you are a military member, a first responder, a police officer, a teacher, a mom, a dad, whatever you are doing. Thank you. But being of service sometimes means we forget to be of service to ourselves. And I see this all the time. And it's kind of what made me develop the Hug It Out brand, because we spend a lot of time in connection and communication with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get into a little upset with someone and someone witnesses it and they're like, oh, come on, guys, hug it out. Right?
That.
Like, you don't have to, you can agree to disagree, but let's just get along and make amends. But how often do you make amends with your own mind? How often do you hug it out with yourself? How often do you take a step back and say, I need to support me so that I can support other people? Because you hear it a lot, and I hear it a lot in circles, that those jobs especially rarely think about self-care for themselves.
Right.
And it's really important, because how can you show up 100% for anybody else if you're not showing up 100% for yourself, be it your business or family?
Why do you think it's so hard for people? I feel like you're talking to me about this, so I'm taking this a little personally, just to be honest. But it's like, why do you think it's so hard for people to look within themselves and realize, like, listen, in order to be healthy, you need to take care of there's that saying, you need to take care of number one first. If you're not taking care of yourself, then how the hell do you expect to take care of other people? Or how do you expect to, like you just said, show up and be 100%, whether it's at your job, your career, or the people that rely on you, what have you?
I think it's going to be different for everybody what the reason is. Maybe sometimes, and this is what I've heard just in conversations in my work, that it's easier to distract yourself and put your attention on helping others and not have to worry about your own stuff. It's a sweep under the rug, right? But sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. The people pleasers in the world, those who are constantly volunteering and doing, and it's like they're spending so much time cleaning other people's homes. And I don't mean just their homes, I mean clearing the space. They're not thinking a lot about the one piece of imminent domain they own that nobody will ever own, that they will always own, and that is your mind and your thoughts. And that's basically the safe haven that you might be ignoring, right? So the Hug It Out way, the method is in the healing, which we are doing from the time we come out of the womb till the time we leave this earth.
Mm-hmm.
We are constantly on a healing journey. You don't have to call it a healing journey, but we're constantly working on something about ourselves, I hope.
Right.
But in the healing, you have to have a little humor to some of the things you've been through, right? You might not feel the humor in the moment, but even the worst situations, you're able to laugh about some of those things in some way and see the humor on the other side of it. Find the lessons in the laughter and the lessons, right? And then that's the H. The U is the understanding. Who are you? How are you showing up in this world? What are your core values? Because knowing that is how you walk in the room. It's what's the music playing during your entry song when you are walking in a room? What's the word you want people to think about when you walk in the room? That's your you. And then the G is, we talk about gratitude all the time, but the way I talk about gratitude in the Hug It Out is, what are you grateful for about yourself? You can be grateful for many things in your life that you're bringing into your own life. But this goes back to your question that why do you think people focus on other people? Because they're not giving attention to what they appreciate about what they're bringing to the table. I'm a good dad. I'm a great friend. I am an amazing service man or woman to this, to the work that I do. I bake well. Whatever it might be for you, what do you appreciate about yourself? Because that's really important to have that self gratitude. And there's studies behind how powerful gratitude could really be, you know, which is why I bring it into the space. Got to hug it out with yourself.
I'm speechless, and that's doesn't happen often. Golly. I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
We're coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of your time. And again, folks, we're going to have all of our contact information in the show notes below. And I'm sitting here processing everything that she just said, and I love that you put the hug it out. I love how you broke it down like that, because I never really, and even though you've told me that analogy before, hearing it again just gets you thinking. And I know those of you that are listening right now, there's some of you out there who are just like, that was deep. And it is. And it's meant to be. So thank you for that, first off. I want to just say thank you for that.
My pleasure.
The last question that I have for you. The show's called The Decision Hour. Mm-hmm. We have to make decisions every day. Name a time in your life where your feet are on the line and you have to make that decision. Hilary, what is that decision? And what's the atmosphere like at that time?
I knew exactly what it was when you said it. And I was 15 years old with my body in a orthodontist chair with my mom on one side and my orthodontist on the other. And I was asked that question, are you okay getting this surgery? And I had TMJ, which is temporal mandibular jaw disorder. It was pretty painful going through the earlier stage of my life as my bones were growing. And that was a really big decision to make for a kid in that moment. Yeah. To be asked, would you be okay with major reconstructive surgery that will take you out of school for 2 months, that will be very uncomfortable for 2 months, that will change the look of your face while you're swollen and going through this process? Thank God there wasn't social media back then. That's all I got to say about that. Because I've seen people getting this surgery in this day and age, and I'm like, holy crap on a cracker. I would not be putting my pictures on social media with my healing process. But that was the big decision. And I said, let's do it. Because the alternative was, and this can go, I wish I had havening them, by the way, which I haven every time I go to the dentist, because that is a place that was traumatic for me.
Yeah.
Right. So I haven in the chair, and it totally downregulates me because I take myself somewhere else. Right. But in that moment, I had to make that decision to go through that major reconstructive surgery. And it's still with me to this day, because that was a really early stage of getting the jaw surgery. Mm. And there are things that I'm having to deal with now that where medicine has changed, where they do it differently.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of the guinea pig of this surgery and dealing with it, 35 years later. So that was the big decision. And that was a powerful one for me. And it was hard.
Wow. I can't imagine at that age having to make that type of decision with that. That is something else. Wow.
I still have conversations with my mom about it because I think it is one of those things where it was so traumatic. And I'm going to say it was painful. It was.
Yeah.
15, not knowing how to really deal with that. Didn't have, do we even talk about self-regulation back then? Heck no. There was no talking about alternative medicine and dealing with the behavioral and mental side of things of going through something so traumatic at such a young age. So that's an area that I really like to focus on. I have a lot of people that do come to me with pain issues and fear of the white coat, meaning like going to the doctor's office and things like that. Uh, you shouldn't be. You are your own healthcare advocate, and you don't have to say yes to everything. And I think where my voice came from, this is the true power. Like you, my voice came from it having to be wired shut for 2 months. I think that's why that's one of my superpowers is using my voice for good.
I concur with that 100% because you are one of the most positive people I've met. I think that's one of the things that I love about you and being around you is that aura that you just set off, and it ties in great with purpose and what I feel like my purpose in life is being surrounded by those people. So, Hilary, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. This was a pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with your community further.
Absolutely.
And you.
Oh, you know it. You know it. Folks, we're going to have all of our contact information in the show notes below. Don't forget to check out our parent network, Heroes Media Group. Go check out all the shows, articles, slew of other stuff that they got going on over there, heroesmediagroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.